since we last chatted?
The election drama over in the US?
Me and Matt were having this discussion this morning because, they had the other debate there.
I've watched both debates. The first one was just an absolute schmozzle, obviously. And I described it as they both scored an own goal each and it ended up 0-0.
It was a 0-0 draw.
It was terrible, but I think, and then for the second one, they both learned their lesson about, calling each other names and speaking over each other. And then the rules obviously were tightened and that helped as well. But Trump was like normal, I thought. Like he spoke like a normal person,
I honestly think he'll win. I actually think he'll win.
I would have given it to the second debate. I would have given to him, to Trump. Biden, he's forgetful and not mumbles.
I just think it's unlikely that he doesn't do a second term.
Well, it's pretty rare that presidents in general don't win a second term. But I mean, and how relevant is that? It's probably not at all. He would have probably romped it in without this COVID stuff. That's the only thing that maybe has equalised it.
Yeah, but I feel like, especially in American politics, right, it's almost like my team. I'm rooting for my team, right?
That's everywhere, though. I mean, probably more so than anywhere in America.
But that's what I'm saying about this situation. So basically, they're still supporting their team, which was the guys who voted Trump 4 years ago. Probably are still going to vote Trump again.
I agree, but I've also seen a lot of things online about people changing their minds about Trump toward him, which I haven't seen a lot of people saying that they were, anti-Democrat and then changing their mind toward the Democrat. Now, that's just what I've been seeing. So, what kind of bubble is my internet, or my social media channels in, and, we can get onto the Social Dilemma Netflix documentary as well about that. But yeah, like I've been seeing quite a lot of people, and there's this hashtag walk away campaign. I don't know if you've seen any of that. And I don't know if that was just like an organic kind of movement, like a social media movement that just started up. It's obviously someone has to go first, but I've watched a few of these walk away videos that people have been making. So what it is about previous forever Democrat supporters who've talking about how they've woken up about, that they've been duped about what, the Democrats are all about. They're not really about the common man and all that kind of thing, like it's sold. And they've decided to walk away from the Democrat Party and become Republicans. And their stories about how they've it's like a coming out story in a way, and how they've had to deal with coming out to their families that are Democrat families, because they're full on in America, right? Here you could have a family, where, one person's a Liberal supporter and another person's a Labor supporter, and no one wants to you don't want to kill each other over it.
No.
You might make jibes when it comes to election time, maybe, but that's the end of it. But there, it's like it's almost like a lifestyle, It's like if you've got the American flag hanging off your porch, then you're dead set Republican, and it's just. And if you're a Democrat, then you're supporting Black Lives Matter, and it's just they're the kind of stereotypes.
But that's just their politics has become divisive like that. It's become us versus them.
Yeah, it's a team sport, like you were saying. Yeah, it's completely a team sport.
And I was reading and I still think, because they were saying that general indicator, so obviously the most postal votes they've ever gotten is this year, so they're up to some stupid amount. And generally it's Democrats that postal vote. But at the same time, the Republican Party has record numbers of registrations. So what's going to happen? So one determining factor is pointing to Democrat. Another determining factor is pointing to Republican. So I think Trump will probably end up getting a second term. In all honesty, I think if he loses, he's not going to be too fussed.
Really? Why?
Yep. I just get the feeling that in a way, he almost regrets being president.
I just think he likes it first and foremost for his ego.
But that he's achieved that, right? So he's already been president.
Okay, he's achieved it, but he'd rather go out on his own terms, meaning after a second term. Okay, if he loses the presidency, that means he goes out a loser, and that's not what Trump's about.
That's true, but
even though he's lost a lot in terms of business deals in his lifetime, but It's not what he sets out to do.
But he's also about money, and the money is made when you stop being president, not when you are president. That's where they all make bank.
Having said that, yes, okay, you got Obama and Clinton going around the speaking circuit getting paid, $500,000 to speak for an hour, right? But how many conservative organizations are going to be throwing money at Trump to talk?
See, the thing is that the actual position,
like universities and universities and things like that, they're not going to be getting Trump in to do speeches.
To a certain extent, but the position itself still commands respect. So even though they believe, he's not that. He was the former president of the United States, and that will always be in his tagline. Totally.
However, he will still be tarnished if he goes out as a one-term loser, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. That would be one thing negative against him. Secondly, he's Donald Trump, so that's the second negative thing against him. Thirdly, he's not a very good orator. Like, that's what you've got to give that to Obama. His manner of speech and sensational, right? His intonation and he's just absolutely brilliant. Even Bill Clinton can can command an audience. Trump, he needs a teleprompter. He gives Biden shit for needing a teleprompter, but Trump, Trump's only good when he's doing a speech, bagging someone. Then he can go, off the top of his head, right? Then he can just pull it out. But when it comes to proper detail, Trump needs a teleprompter.
Oh yeah, of course. But I think it's also a bit harsh to compare him to, like, from a public speaking point of view. You can't beat Obama. The man was an amazing public speaker, and I don't think you can compare anyone really.
He still is. He's still doing it, and he's in the last couple of weeks. He's been on the campaign trail, speaking out, doing rallies or whatever, pro Biden stuff. Vote Biden, Harris.
But he's got that gravitas. Like, he's got that pull, like, he's very engaging, and I don't know if you can actually really teach that, but that's one thing. So I don't think, even comparing other presidents and former presidents, not many of them had that anyway. I don't think to his extent.
Trump has a monotone way of speaking, apart from when he's reading off a teleprompter, apart from when he's bagging someone, right? Then his asshole personality comes out, but it's actually funny. But Obama is, I don't know, is it right to say that the way he speaks in front of an audience is up there with, someone like Martin Luther King? Maybe that's a stretch, but you know what I mean? He's along those lines where he has what I mean is he's got a rhythm to his speech.
Maybe not in the severity of what he's talking about, but in the way he actually talks and delivers a speech, man.
Yeah, and I think that is probably most of the pull of Obama from when he was running for election the first time around, 2007. This guy came along that just seemed like this, Martin Luther King type of style of person, right? I think that was a major part of the pull. The draw to him, whether he had substance. Well, people thought he had some substance then. I think after 8 years, in my opinion anyway, I don't think he really had much substance.
Although I don't think, so what I don't get? I don't think I would treat him, how you sometimes get politicians who come across as fake and sort of out of touch with reality, like most of them are, right? But I feel like people were drawn to Obama because he felt, He when he spoke, it almost felt like he
fatherly,
was
like a father figure type of thing. Yeah.
In a way. Whereas you don't get that from Trump at all. He's not engaging at all. Some people are. It's not an easy skill. Like, public speaking is not an easy skill. And even like things like when you speak to people who've been on radio all the time or something like that, right? Like, even when you're actually just talking to them, even without behind a mic, even without just listening to them, they're still engaging people. It's just something inherent about them that are very good at that sort of conversation. I don't know if you can teach it. I actually don't think you can, to a certain extent, teach some of that.
Well, I mean, there are speech coaches. People have that job, so you can. I think you've got to have something naturally, but yeah, you can tweak and improve someone's manner of speech, make them practice. For sure, and I would say that Obama probably did a fair bit of that. And I think Trump has probably just gone, fuck that. I've got no interest. You know what I mean? I am who I am. I am what I am, and it'll come out the way it comes out.
But it's not like he didn't have a go at, like he did Celebrity Apprentice and he's done things like that. So there would have been some level of, we'll call it training. There would have been something, because the TV network's not going to put a guy on there who just freaks out. Like, you can't do that. You got to give him something.
I mean, I never saw any episodes of Celebrity Apprentice, you know, the American or even the Australian, but, you know, Donald Trump on there, apart from, you know, the odd clip that they've shown just because he's been president. And yeah, he's a natural talking about business, okay, because that's his life and it's all he knows. So there's a comfort factor there. Whereas becoming a politician and talking about policy and, you know, stuff like that, that's a completely new thing. So you need a teleprompter. You need a speechwriter and teleprompter. He's not a natural at it.
Yeah, but you take guys like, you know, look at George W. Bush, right? So they say George W. Bush, you know, sometimes gets the reputation of a bumbling idiot sometimes, right? But if you actually go and read some of the people that were close to him, there's a good article. I think it's called "George W. Bush is the smartest man. The smartest man you'll ever meet," or something like that. If you ever read that, right? And the guys that were closest to him were like, man, the dude was an intelligent dude. The dude he was I'm pretty sure he studied at Harvard and stuff like that. Like, he did all the things he had to do. But they reckon he was he was like a sponge. Like, you could talk to him and he'd remember everything, and he was very good for that, you know. But you don't get that. You don't get that from his public appearance, because it's you can make one mistake doing a speech and it gets exaggerated. Like, people, that's how you get remembered, you know.
I watched Vice on Netflix, the movie. Yeah, it was pretty good. Movie about Dick Cheney, and it's set up to, you know, imply that because he had retired from politics, I think, and Bush W got him back into as his running mate, and it's implied that basically Cheney's the president, right? And he's calling the shots behind the scenes, and George W is just the face of it because he's just this bumbling dumbass, you know, son of a former president. So they really play Bush off as a real dummy in that movie. And I don't know how much truth was it in there. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's why when you read stuff like that, he actually gives an example of why this is the case and why he's in this and blah blah blah, which is actually quite interesting to see the other side of it. And I suppose you can't get to president without some intelligence. Like, I mean, there has to be either you're either an intelligent person or you're an extremely diplomatic or social person, right? So there's, you know, you got to have something that people are drawn to, right? So you're either intelligent or you're good at diplomacy, right? Clearly, Trump's not good at diplomacy, because I don't think that's his forte. So he's obviously not an idiot per se, but it's you have to have something to get there. You can't just be.
Well, yeah, I mean, 4 years ago, he just played on the fact that everyone's sick of politics, basically, and that's what got him there, right? Because he was not a politician. And he actually said it in the second debate with Biden. He said Biden mentioned Obama, and Trump chimed in with, you know, you and Obama, you know, you career politicians, you're the reason why I ran, right? Because I'm not a politician and I'm not like you, kind of thing. I thought it was a fantastic line. It was probably the best line of the debate.
But he's also not average Joe, though, so depending on how you look at it. I suppose, like, it's a weird seeing a country that goes on about you know, equality and all this in the environment, and the two people they chose are two old white rich men.
And even the third one who just lost the semi-final, Bernie Sanders, was just another one.
No, yeah, I know. That's the amazing part about it. I was like, out of all the times you discuss being different and, you know, being equitable and all that sort of stuff,
the Democrats are not stupid. Well, they are stupid, but they're not 100% stupid, because they realised that they needed to throw the diversity card in. Hence, his vice president running mate, Kamala Harris, who during the Democrat primaries belted their absolute shit and tore a new arsehole out of Biden for Biden's policies. But then when Biden gets the nomination, they put Kamala Harris as his running mate. Why? Because, dark-skinned woman, right, ticks the boxes. Even though when it was put to after she was confirmed as the running mate, it was put to her by some reporter about the sexual harassment accusations against Biden, right? And she's been this big Me Too movement proponent, okay? And and she had always said, I believe all women, right? And some reporter said to her, well, do you believe the women that have accused Biden? And well, no matter what she answers, she lost. She lost that. Not that the media really, plays, but it's on social media if you want to see it, and it just shows the hypocrisy.
Yeah,
the tokenism. Firstly, the tokenism of having her, who picked up less than 2% of Democrat delegates during the Democrat primaries, and then becomes potential vice president. And who knows if Democrats are to win. Biden's 77 years old and clearly and obviously in the early stages of dementia, right? That's just not a media beat up, or a conservative media beat up. That is, it's obvious to anyone with half a brain. So what happens if after, let's say, 3 years, Biden's not up to it anymore, right? And he's got to retire. Who gets president? She with 2% of delegates could become the president of the free world. Figure that one out, mate.
Do you want to hear a funny, like what I was reading about, we delve into, I won't say conspiracy theories, just something like someone said, I think they pick the vice president. I was reading a bit online. I think they picked the running mate as a disincentive to assassinate the president. So they pick someone who would be a worse option. I was like, that's an interesting concept, isn't it?
I love that. Who was JFK's vice? Was it LBJ Johnson?
Yeah, I think so.
It was Lyndon Johnson, wasn't it? Was JFK's vice president?
Yeah, I think Lyndon Johnson. Yeah, I heard that. What they always do now is they pick someone as a disincentive to assassinate the president, and I was like, that's actually a very, very interesting call because really all that matters, essentially, they become president.
So Pence is a worse option than Trump, is he?
That was just the interesting, because really what happened was because remember you had George W. You had, what do you have? Sarah Palin, wasn't it? Sarah Palin at the time. Wasn't she running mate for one of them? Who was she running mate for? Was that in the last election?
McCain. No, she was McCain's. Right. Yeah, and so she was never vice president.
Yeah, and I was like, really?
She would have been.
Yeah, yeah. She would. Well, she would have been. She would have been, and I was like, so they always pick the same with Kamala Harris. So if Joe Biden wins, like she becomes vice president.
So obviously with that theory, Pence is a worse option than Trump. I don't know a lot about Pence. So I haven't really followed much of his stuff in the last 4 years, but I watched a little bit of the first vice president's debate on YouTube between Pence and Kamala Harris, and I just picked up there that Pence just keeps on repeating the line, "The American people." The American people this, the American people that. And I don't know if that's a common thing with presidential candidates or vice presidential candidates to just it's almost one time per sentence. They've got to drop in the American people to try and really overdo the fact that they're talking, that it's all about the public and citizens and bullshit like that. And it's totally planned and trained. It's not just his manner of speaking. It's totally, but it's just too overt and too obvious, right? Just like when Kevin Rudd was always going on about working families. Remember his working families bullshit that he kept on dropping in? That was exactly the same thing. That was probably even worse. Working families this, working families that. And how stupid and patronizing and condescending, how dumb do they think that voters really are? If you're hearing the same word or the same phrase over and over again in every sentence, how long does it take for you to go, oh, this guy's such a fucking phony?
But that's how they've been. So there's one. So the Liberal Party has Michaelia Cash, the Senator Cash. I don't know if you've ever seen her.
She's West Aussie. Yeah.
Do you listen to her talk?
No, I don't really know much about her.
So just go back and when she has a thing, and I'm like, every time I hear her talk, I'm like, it's an advertisement. Like, you've been trained to say this. Like, you don't come across as sincere.
Right.
You come across as just, yeah, it's like you've been trained. You're trying to hide something from
It's
everyone.
bullshit, isn't it?
So frustrating.
Why can't they talk like normal people talk?
Mate, honestly.
See, and this is exactly 100% the reason Trump was elected, because he doesn't talk like politicians talk. And even after 4 years, doesn't talk like politicians. Well, he probably does have his ways of, throwing in politics speak, but, in the Trump version. But you know what I mean? Like, if I was running for politics, any position in politics, I would try my best to, in a more intelligent manner than I'm capable of now, obviously, and more articulate than I'm capable of now. But just try to speak the way I goddamn speak. You know what I mean? Because the way the common person speaks is the way the common person wants to be spoken to.
But that's the media. That's also so you hire a media team, right? And they all have one, right? So your media team. Sometimes I feel like what they do is they create a persona hoping that the person fits into the persona. But you should probably create the persona for the person, because it's very hard, because what happens is you just sound fake.
That's a brilliant way of putting it. Yeah, absolutely.
So do you know who's done a good job of this? I will give McGowan's PR team, mate, they're doing a good job. Whoever he's got in his PR team, they are doing a good job at it, whoever they are, because that's the way it appears. So what they've done, they know what he's like. They know his personality. So everything gets tailored. So when things for him, right, when things go off track, he still is able, like, it's a lot of the times he'll roll with it. Like the kebab thing ended up being a good joke. Talking about Santa coming in, we're giving you an exemption, all that sort of stuff, right? So when things are a little bit off center, it's almost played into that persona, and I feel like they do it very good. But then sometimes you get other people doing a persona, and I'm just like, do you remember the Tony Abbott one and they were going with the working class man persona, and he was out eating an onion and stuff like that?
So that time he took a bite of that onion, was that a planned thing? Like, he didn't just do it on a whim?
No. I feel like he was trying to be like, I feel like they obviously had set this up.
Or did he fuck up thinking that he was holding an apple?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I feel like they didn't really put him in a situation that catered to his personality, right? So I feel like he kind of he almost panicked in a way and did that, because I was like, who's ever taken a chunk out of an onion? That's just...
What situation caters to Tony Abbott's personality? A game of chess? I don't know. It's not the most... a bit of a boring
But
fella.
that's the whole point. So don't put him into a scenario that requires interpersonal relationships with people, because he's not good at that. He seems like a very serious dude. So put him into serious situations and discuss serious situations. Don't put him in fluff pieces. Fluff pieces for people who can't do fluff pieces are terrible. Actually terrible.
It just makes them seem like a robot. Yeah.
Oh, and it makes him seem really unrelatable. It's like, why would you do that in that situation? Like, all you're getting to do is people think he's a weirdo, which is like the worst thing you can have as a politician. To think people think you're a weirdo. Because then he went into the whole misogynist thing, and he hates women, and that flow on effect from that, right? So these are all happening at the same time. And I was like, well, he's just a serious dude. Stop trying to put him in unserious situations. They don't come off looking good. But same with John Howard, really had very few fluff pieces. But these fluff pieces were about things he knows, like cricket. Whenever it was a fluff piece for him, it was either him going for a walk or cricket. That's it.
But when he did that bowling, he was playing it was a backyard cricket game, whatever the hell it was, right?
Yeah.
And he stuffed up the ball because the ball was actually sticky and it got stuck in his hand. And the media never let it go. He was always brought back. And even to this day, you see it. They replay it. That poor bastard, I felt sorry for him then.
But he was very interested in cricket, and everyone knows he's very interested in cricket, right? But then you get like McGowan sometimes talks about football, and I know he doesn't like football. Like, you can tell from when he talks, I'm like, I don't think you know anything about football.
The
I
worst
honestly don't.
for someone trying to be relatable using sport in politics, I think, has been Malcolm Turnbull, right? Malcolm Turnbull, supposedly this Sydney Swans fan or whatever. Fucking absolutely terrible, mate. Seriously. He would probably, the only sport he would have ever seen in his life is probably polo, right? You know, out in the country, Richie's polo day.
If he even went to any sporting events, or it was all just greets, you know.
But he would try to talk like, you know, a common person, you know, whether he was doing a radio interview or whatever. And it just came across so smarmy and so obvious to me that, you know, that you're full of it.
You can tell almost instantly when they know what they're talking about or not. Like, you could tell, like, Gillard obviously was a Bulldog supporter.
She used to actually go to the game, so yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but you can tell when they're talking about stuff and like they have a genuine interest in these things. But then you get people who don't have a genuine interest and they start trying to pretend they do. And it's just like, this guy's got no idea. And what you don't want is to think of your politician as, this guy's got no idea. That's one of the worst things you can have.
Once a politician is reaching, they lose everyone. Yeah, well, they should lose everyone, but you know they lose people that you know that detect that easily, and anybody should be able to detect that easily. You know, you got Scott Morrison. He's always got banging on about his Sharkies, right? What's that? Cronulla Sharks, right? Probably talks about it too much, right? Because he's an absolute tragic.
Yeah.
But I prefer that than Malcolm Turnbull who fakes it.
Well, he called the aeroplane Shark 1.
Oh, did
the his Australian aeroplane is called Shark 1.
Scott Morrison gets absolutely smashed because, you know, just because he's one, Liberal, and two, Prime Minister, right? And I find him hard to dislike. He's a likable person most of the time. Right, he's had his awkward moments. He has, because at the end of the day, he's a politician, and every politician does. But I think he's a likable bloke.
But his fluff pieces were very bad for him.
Which ones?
So you know when they start. So we'll go back to you had bushfire period when that was on, right?
Oh yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, he should not have been away. Totally stuffed that up. Yeah, got it.
So so things like that. When your fluff pieces are there to make you look good. When you're failing those, like, just don't have. You're better off not doing fluff pieces. So just have serious articles. That's it. Because no one cares if your prime minister, your president, whatever, is a serious person. At the end of the day, they have a serious job, right? But what the worst part is doing a fluff piece that goes horribly wrong. Nothing worse than doing a fluff piece that goes horribly wrong, which happened to him quite a bit. Because it tried to turn into going on a holiday with his kids, right? As a relatable person. What it came out was, I don't give a shit about what's happening at home. I'm going to go on a holiday, right? That's how it appeared. So those two things were very disconnected.
Yeah, look, in reality, I don't think there's anything that would have happened in the country different in terms of related to dealing with those bushfires if he had been here, because it's not his job to hold the hose. It's not his job to tell people how to fight those bushfires, where to spend the money, where to put resources, right? That's why you've got ministers in place and heads of departments and, you know, heads of, institutions like the fireys, the police, right? That's why you've got all this. It's just what it looks like. That's all that came down to. It was just a bad look, right? But basically, when a country's at war, when a country's in any sort of crisis, people want to be led, right? And people want to feel like they're being led, right? And all that is the PM being on the news, you know, and giving the updates, right? They just want to, whether there's actually any effect of his, you know, that leadership, they just want to feel like they're being led. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, how do you put it? It's a bit of a crass way to say it, but people are sheep. And they want to be led. That's all that came down to.
So the other one that happened. So then he came back, and then he went to go visit the I think it was Kangaroo Island.
Yep.
I think. And then he said, I think he said something on the lines of, so good thing nobody died or something like that. And then 2 people had already died.
I didn't
remember that part.
Really?
Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, you ever go? And I was like, man, that's a failure. Yeah, like you got to know these. You got to be briefed on this stuff before you go. So basically, instead of going to look like I'm caring now, he's come out saying, well, I didn't even know people died. So you obviously didn't have that much interest in the case. And it's a very fine line that you're crossing. So it's like when you do a fluff piece, don't leave gaps. Like you leave holes, people pick at them, man. Yeah, but that's the part, the joys of being.
Well,
that's
what they sign up for. Yeah.
And I suppose the nice superannuation package when you're done. I mean, I suppose there should be some sort of perk to.
Well, I think Prime Minister. I think what do they get paid? About $400,000 a year. It's not a lot of money.
Yeah, wages not money.
You know, these guys are at a level where they could go and be, board members of ASX companies and things like that, and get paid a shitload more than that. And they probably do after they finish their time, but you know what I mean. Compared to what they could be putting their time to, they don't get paid. I think it should be $1 million job. However, imagine if it was $1 million job, it would be you'd get crucified because it's $1 million job.
So go back if you want to see, but this is the a lot of the times they said, like, this is why people bring up corruption issues a lot with politicians and how the look and stuff. Because you look at so you take, for instance, right, Costello. So you got Peter Costello around that time, but then you got Alexander Downer, right? So Alexander Downer was foreign minister, blah, 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 right? Then after he left politics, then he started working for, I think he was on the board for Woodside.
Was he? Okay. Costello was head of Channel 9 or something, wasn't he?
I'm trying to remember which one it was. But anyway, during the early 2000s, so have you ever read the story of Witness K, by any chance?
I've heard of it. What's that about?
Okay. Please do Witness K, right? So if you want to know about
the amount of shit that you give me to follow up in these bloody podcasts we do, honestly.
Witness K, all right? So Witness K is a current case happening in the federal court. Basically a whistleblower, right, released Australian. So this was an Australian citizen. So basically East Timor, you got East Timor and you got West Papua, right?
Yep.
You got that area there. So basically in the early 2000s, Australia went and did this is why it's dodgy as shit. Australia went and did some they basically had an agreement with Papua New Guinea, right? So we're going to mine your oil, right? So instead of you getting 80 cents and we keep 20 cents, right? They done it in a dodgy way that basically cost their government $15 billion, right? So we basically, in a way, became, instead of being our biggest where we donate most of our money, we give us our biggest aid, we became their biggest. They give us more aid than we give
East
them.
Timor.
Right, from that. What actually happened? East Timor, right? So what actually happened was this witness. So the way they worked this out was this witness said, well, when they were doing the negotiations, the Australian government bugged the East Timorese government, right, to figure out all their information, and then went back to the table and basically said, well, this is the deal, take it or leave it, because they knew all the other side's information, right? This is what happens, okay? So they had this conversation. This guy then gets arrested, right? So this witness K, no one knows who it is. His lawyer, while he was at the UN High Commission for Human Rights, gets a warrant searched on him, and they searched his entire house while he wasn't there, the lawyer. So ACE basically confiscated everything, right? They then did a secret trial because of national security that no one knows about that is currently happening right now, right? This is what happened. The thing that makes it really bad is the tender for this pure thing went to Woodside, right? Who then went to work for Woodside after he left politics?
Downer,
who was presided over the Security Intelligence Service, which bugged the information to get the oil from East Timor. I was like, is that not dodgy as shit?
So he gave them a sweetener to pave the way for a high-paid position when he was done.
Pretty much. So basically, he screwed over the East Timorese government for their oil. All right, then went back, sold it to Woodside, and then went on the board of Woodside. But we're not allowed to release this information. Go read Witness K, and you'll be like, "Well, that's pretty bad." And if anyone else is listening, there's a little video on YouTube. There's a little comedy series on YouTube called they're called Honest Government Ads, right? If you ever get the chance, there's this It's a satirical thing. That's actually surprisingly informative, right? And there's one that's called Visit Timor-Leste. That's basically who they stole it from. So Timor, Timor, dash Leste, right? It's 2 minutes 46. If you want to know basically what happened in 2.5 minutes, it's pretty good. It is actually awful. Like, I was like, man, that's pretty bad, eh? And like, you try and say, no, it can't be that bad. And I was like, yeah, that's suspect. And the fact that the trial's happening now and no one knows about it, and I was like, that's weird, isn't it? In Sydney, he's been tried for treason or something, the guy, the witness K.
Are you surprised? Does it surprise you?
To an extent, no, but it makes you real wonder. I suppose like you put a lot of faith in your government to do the right thing, and then and then this stuff happens. Yeah, we'll go. Get in.
Tell him we're ready to finish the bloody episode.
Yeah, we're on Zencaster and Zoom. This is Metal just walking in. Oh, turn on the video.
Hello, Earth calling Mel.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, I'm here, man.
Special Chronicles hello to you, Carmelo. Where have you been?
Working, mate, working. Jesus. Had a few clients just roll up.
This whole thing's been mostly about politics. We've gone through so many topics.
We have.
You've missed the beauty here.
But Berejiklian in there, Metal. Should she resign, Metal?
Gladys? Well, no, not really. No, I don't think so.
Well, Simon seems to think she should.
I don't know. I would struggle to say I think she should resign. I expected her to step down from it. I thought it would damage her too much, but it doesn't seem to have.
Man, I think everyone's just working out that she likes a bit of loving. She's just human. Everyone needs a cuddle every now and then. So,
I think her gender has played a role in the softly approach being given to her.
I think also, no, not so much her gender.
Is that sexist to say, or is it right to observe that? What I mean is, if it was a guy, if it was a male politician, I think he would have had to step down.
You're telling me if that was Mark McGowan, do you reckon that they would let him step down? They'd say he's done a marvellous job with the COVID-19. He's only human. I think she's fortunate. She's a person that's been lucky with timing. Her timing, but she's in a COVID pandemic. She's done a good job. The New South Wales economy is not bad, and so she's done a great job. So what are they going to crucify her? She's actually done she's probably been one of the most outstanding premiers.
Yes, but you are held to a higher moral standard than the general public, though.
Absolutely.
And that didn't apply with American presidents of the past, but did it? or Italian prime ministers either.
But the recent past.
Yeah, there's context to everything. The cultural context. What's accepted behaviour and what's not in particular countries where this shit happens.
The current Thai King medal. Have you seen that one?
What's that about?
No, so the Thai King, I don't know if you've followed any of this part, but the Thai King at the moment is apparently a bit of a nutcase, right? So his dad died, who everyone they loved, right? This guy here is a real left of centre kind of dude, right? So he goes around in women's clothing, all sorts of, he just had multiple partners, blah, blah, blah. He promoted his dog to lieutenant in the army or something. He's a weird cat, right?
That's gold.
Apparently, Thailand not going too well. They're not too happy with this dude because the whole pandemic, he's been living in Germany, not even in Thailand.
Hang on, Germany's just gone into full national lockdown, and France.
Yep. So he's been living in Germany the entire time this pandemic's on. So, like I said to you before, if you ever feel like the need to see something interesting, go look up the current Thai King. The Thai King one, though, I went into a bit of a rabbit hole the other day reading about the Thai King because his dad, who was actually very beloved, like they all loved the dad, right? The dad was never actually meant to be king. So the dad back in the 40s, right, he had an older brother. The older brother was 17. He was found in his bed. He got shot in the head. So they don't know who did it.
So he was the one in line, was he?
What?
To be king?
He was second in line. So that was his older brother. They got shot in the head.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So the older brother was the one in line to be king.
Yeah. So it was never meant to be this one.
And was it ever suspected that the brother had anything to do with it?
They talk about it. There was a little bit talking about that, but they don't believe so because from all reports, he looked up to his older brother. They don't think that, and he never.
How does a prince in line to, next in line to the throne get killed in his head, killed in his bed, shot in the head, and no one has a clue how it happened or who did it?
They did execute 2 people who were staffers, right? But the general rumor was that apparently the kids, because it was the 40s, used to play with guns a lot in their room. They used to shoot the gun out the window. So it is suspected that he accidentally killed himself. That's actually what they think happened.
God.
Yeah, it's actually quite a fascinating story. I was like, yeah, that's an interesting one. And he was then the king, and he was the brother ended up being the longest serving monarch in world history or something. So he died at 97.
Oh, I reckon Lizzie might give her a run.
Oh, Elizabeth.
Lizzie. She's an amazing woman.
She really is, though.
She's an amazing woman.
Before we get off politics, can we discuss our own tinpot dictator over here who's going to lead us to secession? Mel's favourite politician, Mark McGowan.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just talk about what a disgrace he is? There's my opinion.
Yeah.
Why does everybody think that he's so fantastic? Please explain this to me. He makes us look like absolute fuckwits the way he carries on about the us versus them stuff in Western Australians versus the rest nonsense.
But we brought this up a while back because really at the end of the day, he doesn't care how he appears to the rest of Australia. He only needs to appear strong to the West Australians because they're the ones that vote for him.
Why does he not get called out for this?
Because to the general population, right? The general population. Remember what I said to you before that his PR team's very good.
Yeah.
He's very good. So the general population think he's doing everything into the best interests of them. So it's basically standard us versus them. Maintain us versus them. That's all he's been. That's the status for the entire thing is us versus them. That's what he's still continuing to do, us versus them.
He actually said that the eastern states wanting the WA border to open up is that they just want WA citizens to travel over east. And he actually said that opening the borders would be for self-interested reasons for the East Coast. Right? Mm-hmm. But who is he to say, right? Because there's no reason for the borders to remain closed, right? None, because there's no cases in all right, Northern Territory I think today got 4 cases, but that's a nothing, right? There's no cases in South Australia, nothing in Queensland. New South Wales is sorted, right? Everywhere is sorted except for Victoria, right? And even that's getting better. Right? Even that's getting under control. Right? So there is absolutely no reason for borders to be closed today, right? 29th of October, 2020, there's no reason for the borders to be shut from WA to anywhere, right? But he absolutely refuses to budge and no one does anything. You know what I mean? I'm just stunned. I can't believe that this. First of all, it's against the Constitution of Australia.
Simon, it's Stockholm Syndrome, I'm telling you.
Exactly, thank you. The term I was going to come up with next. It's exactly Stockholm Syndrome, right? Because of the fear, right? They've instilled fear in the population. We need to be led, like I said before, people are sheep, right? And just don't want to think about it. I just can't believe it, mate. People are just just can't think for themselves. You know what I mean?
Good rant, Simon.
Like, who are you to say to control or say where someone is allowed to go and spend their money on holiday, where someone is allowed to go and do business, right? I was listening to the radio last week. There was a truckie who lives up in the north of WA, right? I think it might have been Kununurra. Does most of his business over the border in Northern Territory, right? That's most of his market, whatever he ships or delivers, right? He can't do anything. His business is just pretty much shut down for no reason whatsoever. It's unbelievable. I just can't believe that this bastard is not going to be absolutely smashed. Is firstly not getting smashed in the polls, right? I mean, I don't believe it's the 90% approval rate anyway. But even if it's 60%, approval rate in reality. I can't believe that he's not going to be smashed in the next election, right? And he's not going to be smashed in the next election. He's going to romp it in, okay? Liberals may as well not bother, not even bother trying. They may as well just save their energy. But the fact that that's going to happen just blows my mind, that people can't see what is actually going on and how criminal it is that he's kept his borders shut. Obviously, you can tell. It makes me so fucking angry.
Us versus them, but that's all he's done. Us versus them. But you will see him change because he always tends to change when the public opinion starts to turn. He does flip-flop on a lot of things, right? So that's actually very, very common. It happened with School of the Air, happened with
the regional migration.
Yeah, no, that one. They did it on something about the prisons. What was the prison thing? Something like that. They did something on the prisons. I don't. Anyway, so he generally, in the public opinions against him, he'll flip. So it's inevitable that it will happen. But he did give his issue is, right, he's been maintaining that once you do 28 days without community transmission, we'll open up. His problem is, if we get to 28 days without community transmission, he's going to hear about it. And that's where he's going to have to watch out.
So he wants every state in Australia to have at least 28 days without transmission before he opens the border.
Community transmission.
So let's say every state in Australia has no transmission, but the only one who's not there yet is Tasmania, the island at the bottom of the East Coast. He still won't open the border. Mm-hmm. That's seriously. The guy should be court-martialed, mate. Seriously.
The stance there was that they seem to believe that you can't close to individual states, you have to close to everyone. That's what they're claiming to be. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That seems a bit odd because every other state has closed to certain states and not others. But nevertheless, that 28 days, so we're at 10 now. So that's 18 days time, right? So from now, that is 3 weeks. So it'd be interesting to see in 3 weeks if we get to 28 days and then people are saying, well, you told us this was the case. What's the reason now? So obviously you don't have a medical reason to do it now. So what's your reason?
When's the election over here? March. All right.
March next year.
He can't go to March, surely. He can't even go to February, surely.
You're also missing the perfect timing, Simon, that all he needs to push it out to is till December. Because what's December?
Christmas.
So how do you
now
sell
you can
that
now you can go and see
December?
your family.
Think about what
now you can have Christmas together.
Thank you very much. Now you have a perfect selling PR moment.
That's right. All right. Just like the other day when Victoria eased their restrictions, it was like euphoria. Congratulations, Victoria. We've done it, blah, 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 right? And I just thought everyone's just gone from pissed off, screaming for the restrictions to come down, to yay, we're free, we're happy, whatever. And Dan Andrews gets off scot-free, but completely ignoring the fact that metro area, you can only travel 25 kilometres. You can't go from metro area to regional or regional to metro. So you're still restricted. You still actually have these impositions on you about where you can and can't go. People just don't think about anything, mate. To have these, this domination, control over people. Oh my God, my blood boils. My blood absolutely boils about it.
But so look at that plan though. So if I get to the beginning of December and go, all right, now we're open. Everyone can visit their families interstate, back in Perth, whatever, right? Now, once you do that, he does not have to do something else because January is a write-off. So you don't have to do anything in January, right? So he's made himself to Feb. He has a couple of weeks in Feb and then you go into election mode.
Yeah.
Easy run home. Very easy run home.
No, it makes complete sense.
My personal opinion on the Premier is I think if he gets a string long enough, he will, he'll struggle because he makes these comments every now and then that are pretty outlandish. Like Victoria should give up their GST and give it to us. No, Victoria should give us the grand final because we're not getting a fair share of the GST. I mean,
we've got higher incomes over here, so they just want West Australians to go and spend their money over in the eastern states, to prop up their economies with tourism economy. You know, who are you to firstly judge, secondly say where people can and can't go and spend their money? Disgraceful.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but it's all about the general public. So he just needs, really, in essence, 51% to agree with what he's saying.
And no, the other thing, someone made a good comment the other day about him. They go, why was Colin Barnett supposedly lost the election? Because he was had an emperor. He was he was the boss and he had this emperor theme about him, right? They go, what has Mark McGowan become?
Like I said, the tinpot dictator, right?
And he goes, he better be careful. He better be careful because he's following, that's what because if you do history repeats itself, I saw him in 2012 or 13 when Barnett, he trounced it in.
Why did Colin Barnett lose the election? All right. The biggest thing why Colin Barnett was ousted as premier is the same reason why John Howard lost his final election. All right. And I'll tell you why. I remember the last election, John Howard, who was he up against? Kevin Rudd, right? 2007 election, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I went and voted. Went with my mum and voted at Balcatta High. Okay, and walking out of the school after voting, walking back to the car park. Obviously, as you do when you go and vote in Stirling, you run into 20 people that you know. So someone we knew walking the other way. All right. And just as we were passing, just said, hey, how you going, whatever. Didn't, not going to bring up, who you're voting for or anything like that. And he just goes, change is as good as a holiday. He goes, change is as good as a holiday. And that was his rationale for voting for Kevin Rudd, right? That's the rationale for changing a particular leader in Australia. You've had too long at the top of the tree. That's why John Howard lost that election. People just got tired of seeing the same person. And that's the same reason in WA why Colin Barnett lost his election, because people just got tired of seeing the same person. Change is as good as a holiday in Australia.
Same as Richard Court lost that election.
Yeah. Yep.
Richard Court was the same thing.
It's tall poppy syndrome, right? You can't have too much of a run. It doesn't come down to policy, right? Weighing up one person's policy against the other. It's how long can we put up with a particular person being top dog?
No, but even Alan Carpenter, when he was premier, right? What did he get ousted for, huh? What did he get ousted for? Because he had that emperor attitude, remember? It was always Alan Carpenter's way. That was it. And people got fed up with him. That was it. And the same, Mark McGowan's in down the same path. But anyway, is what it is.
Yeah, you're right. There's only so long until people realise, you're smug. And he's very smug. Yeah. He's not, Mark McGowan he's not Kevin Rudd smug, but he's smug.
I was listening to the radio the other day.
Or Turnbull smug. Jeez, he takes the cake.
What's this is 720, I think. And they're talking about, there's a guy from Fox Sports was on there, and they're talking about the cricket, and they go, it's not fair. Someone was going, it's not fair. West Australia hasn't got any of the big test matches. And they say, the guy goes, well, with all due respect, it wasn't easy to get the AFL over there. You're not getting any big test matches. Do you reckon there's a common denominator there? Do you reckon it's something to do with your premier, making it hard for him to go there?
When's the test series?
November to December.
Why would they bother? Why would they bother giving Perth Stadium, Optus Stadium? They'd have to negotiate terms, Fuck that. Just make it simple for the Australian Cricket Board and go, stuff it. We're going as far as Adelaide and that's it. Make it easy. Why would they bother trying to negotiate with the WA government?
There's only one reason they would negotiate, right? Because playing a test in Perth is perfect for the Indian TV market. Perfect.
Yeah, fair enough.
And you could play it at any time, right? Literally any time from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m, and it would be fine for the Indian TV market. And that's the only reason they would want to do it.
So, mate, would you think that may be better to play it in Sydney or Melbourne? That means the Indian market will be at night time and they get a higher rating.
See, the problem with playing in Sydney and Melbourne is, one, God forbid you veer away from tradition in Sydney and Melbourne. Holy shit. If you try and do a night cricket match in Melbourne, could you imagine the uproar? Like, really?
Yeah, but night cricket match in Melbourne would make it like late at night in India.
Yeah, well, this is the MCC we're talking about. Remember that, okay? Oh my God, you have a grand final. It's an hour later, and shit is the fair.
They go mental about an evening grand final in the AFL, which evening footy games happen left, right, and centre anyway. But the grand final, don't you touch it.
Tradition, no, it ain't going to happen.
Listen to Victorian radio talking about having the timing of the grand final the other day. Oh, people were ringing me up saying, I don't know what I'm doing with myself. We've got to wait all day long.
Yeah, no, but hang on, look, listen. Someone made that comment, right? That what you just said, but the prelims at night. That's what Basil said, right? When there was this on radio, because everyone was ringing up saying, like, my opinion. Again, this is my opinion, right? I don't take the whole day off for the prelim. You understand? But I do take the day off for the grand final.
Yeah, okay. People go out for their lunches.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right.
That's my point. You know what I mean? Like even this year, I went to work in the morning. I was like, I didn't have that. I'll get up in the morning, watch the final replay, watch them kick over the river. None of that. You know, it was nothing.
I think overtime 4:40 is where it's going to sit. I think overtime it's going to be twilight.
Was there no kick over the Brisbane River competition, or kick it off the Story Bridge or something? No,
that'd be way too big. The Brisbane one. But you know what I'm trying to say? I was like, I got up in the morning. I was like, I'm going to work. Went to work. A couple of hours. 3 hours.
I do like grand final day, but at the end of the day, I don't. I don't give a shit. Play it at night time.
But like my point is that's my point. I didn't take the whole day off for prelim. That's just it. Didn't affect my. That's just how I see it.
Anyway, I've got to go. But fellas, it's been a pleasure. I'll let you two continue, and you can bring up Obama as a public speaker with Myrtle and watch Myrtle go and turn the man. Watch it, listen.
The best public speaker in the hit. Amazing.
Take care.
All right, Tom.
He's the best public speaker.
Obama, take it easy, mate. Ciao, bye.
Obama is the best public speaker I've ever. Incredible.
Ever seen?
I've not seen. I haven't seen him. I just listened to him. He's just amazing. He's a brilliant public speaker. My God.
Yes. We were talking about that before, but does he actually say anything of substance, or is he just good at the rhythm of his speech?
He listen to him public speak is incredible. Like he's like, wow, this guy can speak, and the way his tones, the way he holds it, amazing. You give credit where credit's due. Probably the best part. No president, what I would say, would speak as well as him.
So what I said to Don before was, he's up there as a speaker with the likes of maybe Martin Luther King, even.
Oh, yeah.
Now, is that going too far, or is that?
No. Martin Luther King was amazing. Like that speech, I have a dream. Amazing.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant speech. Not that they pay much attention to it. They pay lip service to that speech, right? All sides of politics pay lip service to that speech, right? But they don't take it seriously. Right, because if everybody was judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin, there wouldn't be all this wokeness bullshit. You would be no need for a Black Lives Matter movement, right or wrong, whether it's been bastardized or whether it's legitimate. You know what I mean? It's just, how long ago was that, and what's happened in that country? It's a mess.
Anyway, just I don't know if you boys spoke about it, but what happened to Darren Jolly? What was your thoughts on that one?
Oh, jeez.
Wow, that was pretty heavy. Put a different spin on it.
I'll tell you exactly what. That when I read that his post, it stopped me. Like it stopped me for a while at work. I was just like, my God, and just refreshing Twitter for updates. Exactly. Yeah. Is he all right? As someone found him, and eventually I saw a message he has, and it was relief. Now I don't know much about Darren Jolly apart from the fact that he was the ruckman against the Eagles for Sydney against the Eagles in the 2005 grand final. I don't really remember him playing probably any other game.
He was a good player for Collingwood.
Yeah, I know, but when do I watch Collingwood? When they played the Eagles, maybe that's about it. Otherwise, I couldn't care. So yeah, that was shocking. And if anyone listening to this is wondering what the hell we're talking about, just do a Google search for Darren Jolly, and But anyway, he's all right.
It doesn't put the importance of a service like Lifeline. No, incredible how good service they do.
Yeah, for sure. But it also you think about it, like if you were not able to have any access to see your kids, what that would do to you, right?
Yeah.
Even if whether when people separate or divorce, whoever's right or wrong, I think, is irrelevant to in some contexts. In this context, is irrelevant. This guy hasn't seen his kids for a long time and claims that they've been. He claims they've been brainwashed to hate his guts. Mate, what do you live for? That's what he would have been thinking, I suppose, right? What do I live for if my kids don't care about me anymore? And you know what? I can see that perspective. I can understand that perspective. Like, as soon as my kids as soon as my kids came along, like everything else becomes such a, we talk about politics and we talk about sport, but at the end of the day, it's all completely irrelevant. And you could give that up in a heartbeat because your kids are the most important thing, right? And if you've lost that, right, you don't have that anymore. What are you here for? What are you here for?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. No question at all. And it's just it's like all of a sudden, like, Ben Cousins is in court over that right now. He's at trial because he couldn't see his kids. Yeah, his trial was yesterday. He's in trial. I don't know what's happened because I think it's still going. And Darren Jolly on one end couldn't see his kids. Ben Cousins going through the same thing, can't see his kids. I've spoken to, it's like yesterday I had a client of mine telling me the same thing because we brought up Darren Jolly because he can't see his daughter. She's an 11-year-old girl. He goes, no, I don't even know where she is.
This client of yours said that to you?
He goes, I don't know where she is. He goes, I've tried it. Yeah. He goes, man. And he goes, and not the sad part was that his daughter or his ex-partner there had 2 other kids with 2 other fathers, and the 2 other fathers have been calling him saying, have you seen where she is? Because we're trying to find out where our kid is. Even they're trying to find where their kids are. So there's 3 fathers affected.
I just think if anything positive can be taken by, obviously, he's been looked after. He was found and he's being, cared for now. His whatever mental health issues he's got is just good. And, luckily he didn't, do anything permanent, let's say. Look, and at the end of the day, I suppose putting something on social media is a cry for help of some sort. Okay. So, but if anything positive can be taken from that situation is that, just shining a spotlight on the fact that this happens. That fathers, some fathers are not
absolutely.
up to, because of their character, because of their behaviour.
Absolutely, it's just
they're not up to, being with their children unsupervised.
And some fathers are absolute pricks. You're not going to deny that. Yeah, some mothers are too. Pricks, you're not going to question that. But when you genuinely see like a father, like what it sounds like anyway, Darren Jolly trying to do the right thing, like my client trying to do the right thing. Ben Cousins just want to see his child. It does, and the way the message was written on Instagram was very pulling at heartstrings. Like especially the end where to my mum and dad, I love you. To Lucy, I love you, whoever Lucy is. And to my children, please know I always love you. I was like, man.
For sure.
And it's like, wow, that is a call for help.
Also, put yourself in the position of being one of those kids.
Oh.
At the moment, they're I don't know how old, but they're, not even at teenage years yet, I don't think. But imagine if your father left you with going out with a message like that, and you've got to grow up with that knowledge, and you were not allowed to see your father, or you were turned against him, which is alleged at this point, right? We can't say, we can't say his opinion is the fact, but this is what
use the word alleged. You got to use
the way he feels about it. Yeah. Imagine that, because this happens a lot. That one parent turns the children against the other parent. They use them. They manipulate them to get revenge on the separated partner.
They use them as bait.
God, that's so cruel to do that to kids. You know what I mean? Because these kids can become, young adults or adults and learn to think for themselves and make their own mind up, And if a parent checks out because they can't stick in and wait for that. I mean, you lose. Imagine losing watching them grow up. You lose watching their childhood, and you've got to wait for their adulthood before you can rejoin a relationship. That would fucking suck, like Jesus Christ. A couple of things some things that we that have happened since our last podcast about a month ago. The Claremont trial. Did that go how you expected it to go?
Maybe I think we should do a podcast just purely on that, right? Because we were 18, 19. We were 18, 19 of that.
Well, I wanted to do it I wanted to talk to you about this on the podcast a couple days after. We've just been busy to get around to it. So we've the timing's gone, right? So I think doing a full podcast on that is not much point. But just quickly here, did it go the way you thought it was going to go?
Look, I think it did. And I had a feeling he wasn't going to get the conviction for Sarah Spears because maybe I'm a bit naive or a bit simple or when it comes to certain things, but I think if you're going to prove murder, you need a body.
Not always. I think people have been convicted without a body.
Correct. And look at the case going at the moment up north in Northern Territory, Peter Falconio. There's a bit of did he or didn't he, or did he really do it?
He's been convicted for that, hasn't he? He was years ago, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So he was convicted and the body's never been found. Yep.
Yeah. So now we know what's happening, and I still think it's tragic, and I always will. But it's hard to, it would be very hard because you got to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. That's what I'm saying. So without the body, you know what I mean? The defense can call in a million things and say, well, how do you know I was there at the time that? What DNA do you have to prove that I was there, or what?
Right.
That's all I'm saying. There might be. So not saying that he didn't do it. I'm saying is to prove beyond reasonable doubt that he actually murdered. It's a bit difficult.
I had a feeling that he might actually even get off the whole thing, even for the other two girls, because of the DNA evidence, the contamination and stuff like that, and I thought the judge might have come back with, not in so many words, but in saying it seems pretty obvious that he did it, but it can't be proven beyond complete reasonable doubt. However, I'm glad that he did. Obviously, I'm glad that he came back and said, convicted for two, pretty clear for the third, but we can't, technically we can't say it. We can't convict. Yeah,
we can't convict. That's my point. That's what I'm trying to say. It's without the body, it's hard to convict beyond reasonable doubt that he actually did it. Now, but we probably all know deep down our hearts he probably did it, but without the body, what do you do? Now, the other thing is, if you think about it, he pleaded guilty to those other charges prior to going into the trial.
Yeah, that was interesting how he did that. What they were saying on the Claremont podcast about that trial was that he might have pleaded guilty to those, rape charges and abduction rape charges and assault charges and that, to kind of create the story that he's capable of doing that kind of crime, but he's not capable of murder. He's not actually a murderer. Now you got to think, was it smart to actually admit to those on his part, right? For the purpose of his defense, was it smart to make those admissions? I don't know. I mean, obviously that's what he was advised was his best shot. And they reckon that even just for those charges, for those convictions alone, the abduction, rape, etc. charges, that he probably was unlikely to ever see the light of day, even just with those.
I actually hope he has a fun time in Casuarina. And I mean that has a fun time in general population when they get a piece of pipe and sort him out, That's just my opinion.
All right. Well, that type of thing is probably likely, but if he's in general population, he's probably going to spend his days in solitary, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, probably. Thank you. Well, they'd have to probably because someone would kill him. That's what I think. I think it's inevitable. Yeah, I think someone will definitely try.
But the other thing is he technically a serial killer? Because he's been convicted for 2 murders, but is the definition of a serial killer in place for only 2 murders?
Very good question. I can't answer that either.
Because I thought it was actually, I don't know, I'd have to look up what the definition is, but I did hear something that he's actually he's not technically convicted as a serial killer by the definition of the term. If Sarah Spear's body was ever to be found, then he could be retried because of, I think it was new and compelling evidence was right. So that obviously would be new and obviously compelling evidence, but he can't just be retried, for any old reason. So basically, for him to be retried on that, they have to find the body. That's what it comes down to, which is why the police commissioner said they'll never give up looking.
Oh, absolutely. I hope they don't. I really do.
But in which case, if he then was convicted for the third one, then he would be considered a serial killer. The other thing that happened, Dean Jones.
Oh, tragic. Great player. I don't remember him playing Test cricket much. I do remember him as more of a one-day player.
Yeah, you're right. I think when was his last Test match? Early 90s?
He did make it to the 89 Ashes series, I think it was. The 89 Ashes series where Border won?
Yeah, but I don't think he Border won that, but I don't think Jones had a great series.
I do remember him being there, but that one now I do remember him being there. Everyone talks about the game in is it Chennai or is it India?
Batted for like 8 hours in the heat and got dehydrated and nearly died.
Yeah. Incredible, eh?
Yeah, what a star. I mean, basically he's just Dean Jones. He's just a representation of our childhood.
Yeah, he was Dean Jones. But
just what a player. He would just set. I mean, go back and look at some of the highlights of his career. My God, he would just smash the ball out of the park. And you compare it to look at the bats they were using then to the bats they use now.
Oh mate, they were matchsticks. They were absolute matchsticks.
Now they're using tree stumps now. Imagine if he had a bat like that, like a bat like
Warner uses.
Dare I even say the name or compare him? David Warner's bat.
Actually, did you? Oh, speaking of the Test, did you watch the series, The Test? I watched that.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It was really good.
Didn't we? We've spoken about this.
No, couldn't have because I only watched it the other.
I'm sure we spoke about The Test at the start of this podcast.
I wasn't here.
The first couple episodes. No, not this.
Yeah, but I actually watched it.
First few episodes.
Yeah, but I actually watched it.
Oh, you've actually watched the whole eight episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's very good. But I just left yearning for players like Dean Jones, basically.
He just shows like
players of yesteryear who had guts and weren't so pampered and just whiners.
What's his? I do like Jo as a coach, but I got to give credit. He's a very good coach.
Yeah, he's a great coach for the modern type of player who needs to be mothered.
And I like how he was mothering in the beginning, but when he had to show his back, or he was very nurturing in the beginning, but when he had to put his back out of joint, he let him have it. I did respect that. I thought that was pretty cool. And that's like we looking like soccer now or football, the real football. They're player managers. They're not coaches, really.
It's not. No sport is like it used to be, where it was all you've got to be hard as nails. You know what I mean? Like it's all.
It's all changed. I mean,
they've got to go through health programs,
sports sciences,
mental health programs, sports science.
Yeah, that's changed a fair whack of the game. And my attitude with sports science is, why wasn't Dennis Lilly always having all these injuries with his arms and shoulders and all that? And then the comeback to me is, he was not playing as much cricket as what the guys are playing today because there's 3 forms of the game. Back then there was 1 and maybe, the 50 overs.
Yeah.
But in saying that, the guy made a good comment. I was listening to the guy, there's another person we're talking about it with. He goes, yeah, but hang on a minute. He goes, Lilly played for Australia, and when he wasn't playing for Australia, he played for Western Australia. And when he wasn't playing for Western Australia, he played grade cricket. So he played all 3. So he
probably played county cricket.
And then they turn around and say he wasn't limited to 10 overs in a game oh, we got to arrest him because we got to watch out. We got to, mate, he just kept bowling and bowling and bowling and bowling and bowling.
And that's it. Like bowlers don't hold up an end for even a session anymore. Like it's like 8 overs and then you've got to be pulled and have your rest.
Things are different, my friend. Things are different.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good series.
I did enjoy it. Apparently, there's another one. I've actually got Amazon. I've got to give you that. He's fantastic, Amazon. Great call, my friend. Great call, Amazon.
Start subscribing to things like, big packs of buy things in bulk, mate. It's just so much cheaper. Or go and support your local shop, whatever you want to do.
I do enjoy supporting my local, to be honest with you. So.
Fair enough. Borat, the Borat movie. Have you watched that?
It does not interest me to 1 millimeter.
Interesting that you say that because I started watching it at the start of this week. So we're Thursday now. I think I started watching it Monday. I keep falling asleep each night. And so that's 3 nights so far. Last night I skipped it. I didn't bother going back. I've got the last 15 or so minutes. It's absolutely shit. It's just shit.
Look, if I'm going to watch something, and I've said it before, I don't know if you remember, I got to get smarter or I got to find it funny. If I'm not any of those two things, I'm not really interested. Like people go watch.
So look, there's funny parts, but just overall, I just like I said, it's taken me so far 3 nights. It's going to take me 15 minutes of tonight if I bother to finish it off because I keep falling asleep. And there's a part you've probably seen. There's a part where they set up Rudy Giuliani.
No, I haven't seen that at all. Yeah, I've heard about it, but like I said, I haven't seen that. So
okay, so the character is his daughter. Pretends to be a journalist interviewing him, and at the end of the interview, she suggests to him, "Let's go in the bedroom to take our microphones off." Right? It's just a stupid way of getting him in the bedroom. Right? Now he's a recently divorced man in his 70s, so if he thinks that he's going to go and get a piece of tail, good fucking luck to him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Good luck to him. Now I don't know for what purpose they did this. It's just, and then just to embarrass him. But why? Like, what are they saying politically? I don't know. I can't believe that they're allowed to put that into a movie. It's entrapment. I just couldn't believe it.
Like I said, if I got to watch a movie, I got to laugh. I got to find it funny. Like to me, it needs to be a true comedy, as in like the 80s or the 90s comedies, or an action movie. I don't mind action movies. Or I got to watch a factual documentary. That's it. That's all I'm really interested in.
Oh, the other thing I watched on Netflix, I watched the David Attenborough new one on Netflix. David Attenborough, A Life something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Very interesting. It's all, mostly about, how humans have ruined the world. Humans are overpopulated, deforestation, climate change, ice caps melting, polar bears, the walruses falling off the cliff, which has been proven to be fake news, basically. But he keeps coming back with. Look, it's very believable. Most of you got to watch it and then tell me what you think. Most of what he says, and probably 99% of what he says, is very plausible and believable. But more than a year ago, he came out with, I don't know if you've seen the clip, with these walruses falling off a cliff and tumbling down a cliff, and he's attributing it to the sea ice melting, right? And they're disorientated or something like that, right? And they're falling off this cliff to their death. No, apparently this was documented like over 100 years ago, right? That this would occur, and it's got nothing to do with any sea ice melting, and populations of walruses are fine. Because I looked it up because I knew it had been debunked, and then a year later in his next documentary, this one, he's put it in there again.
Yeah.
You've been called out for it, and you're perpetuating this lie. That pissed me off.
Actually, speaking of interesting, right? This is another first thing out to you. Did you see the ANZ Bank's comment today? The customers have to be carbon neutral, the top 100 customers for climate change. Did you see that?
What?
Yeah.
No.
They're getting involved in their customers' affairs. They're not going to support businesses that aren't carbon neutral.
So what? They're going to cut off their credit. What are they?
I was just going to say they're not going to give credit to these type of people. And I'm like, really? Really? The bank giving moral advice.
I mean, Mel, at the end of the day, you can say, oh well, they'll just wrap up and go to one of the competitor banks, but they don't compete with each other. All right, they're all going to do it. The top four will all do that. What one does, the rest do.
The ANZ's climate policy reveals it's a step away from coal to support net zero emissions. I was like, oh my God. I was like, you people, the bank, getting involved in issues.
Well, you watch this David Attenborough documentary, and basically we're doomed, right? By 2030, the Amazon is going to be on fire, like burnt out, completely on fire, right? Even though they have fires in the Amazon forest every year. So I don't know.
You know, fire creates regrowth. You know that.
I don't know. I just don't know. When it comes to this climate change stuff, I just don't know what or who to believe.
No, so I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
I wish it wasn't so political. I wish it was just purely factual. But whose facts do you believe? That's the problem.
Well, the problem I have with climate change, right? And I'm not saying it doesn't exist or whatever, but what I'm saying is if you're going to say something, it's going to be pretty factual. You can't tell the world that the world's going to be melted and it's going to end by 2020 and you're going to have a drought that no one's going to have any water. Because if you look at the predictions predicted by, what was that guy that won the Australian of the Year? Oh, Tim Flannery. Or was it Tim Flannery?
There'll be no rain in the dams.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you make comments like this and you expect me to take you seriously? Come on, the world was going to, all the sea caps were going to melt. This was by 2021. And it's like, mate, we're still here. No, what's destroyed us is COVID-19, not the sea caps melting.
I mean, like I said to my wife while we were watching it, I said, look, if this is all true, basically it comes down to big business, right? And there has to be financial incentive for everything to change, to get off coal, to use solar power, to use alternative energy or renewable energy, right? It's got to be financially beneficial. It's the only way that everything, all these suggestions that Attenborough is making in this film, it's the only way it's going to happen. It comes down to because unfortunately that's the world we live in. It's an economy-based world, right? If that's the right way to put it.
That's true. It's very true.
And business is only going to do what they're incentivized to do financially.
True. I don't have a problem with renewable sources of energy. Well, I personally, I believe I'd rather them spend money in hydroelectricity than supposedly solar farms and stuff like that. That's just my opinion. I think hydro is a lot better, or geothermal. I think because it's there.
Why not nuclear?
Oh, look, nuclear is.
Nuclear solves it.
Nuclear
doesn't it?
I'm not against nuclear power, far from it. I'm not that type of person. But the stigma, and it is a big stigma. Again,
that's right.
Amazon Prime there. Some fantastic documentaries, amazing documentaries on Chernobyl. There's one you got to watch. It's called Chernobyl 30 Years After. There you go. Watch that one, and it talks about how the Mother Earth has just come back to life. You know what I mean? In Chernobyl,
Well, yeah. So in Attenborough's documentary, he shows it as well. So he actually, I think he starts off and finishes the documentary in Chernobyl, and basically showing that the forest has overgrown the city.
But even animals have come back that had never been there for centuries. The bears, the elks, the moose, or whatever they are, the deer, whatever. What else was there?
So is it still radioactive?
Yeah, it's still radioactive. The fish, there's all sorts of stuff there. And it's like coming back, but they're somehow, and everyone's like, well, how come they're not mutating as much? They look normal to me. The wolves, the foxes, all this, incredible. I'd recommend watching that. That's one thing you got to watch on it. But anyway, that does leave a bit of, what's the word? Leaves a sour taste, because if that does happen, mate, 20,000 years or 30,000 years, whatever, before it gets back to normal.
I don't know. Well, they reckon nuclear energy has no emissions.
There's zero emissions.
And so if every country in the world goes to a nuclear economy, the problem's solved. Climate change is pretty much solved. But all these other renewable energy sources like wind power, right? To make these turbines, what do you need? How do you make these turbines?
Metal,
steel.
Yeah.
Right? What do you need? What do you need to make steel? To make anything, you need oil. To make a machine, you need oil. Right? So you're not shutting down fossil fuels. That's just an impossibility.
Even if it's an electric motor, it's still got to be lubricated.
Exactly right.
But like,
what are we going to use? Canola oil. But then you need to deforest if you need to plant more canola fields.
That's why I don't mind hydro because I reckon hydro is pretty good.
But does that have the energy store?
Well, it's water, isn't it?
It's currently available. I don't know.
Well, you look at there's another documentary you got to watch. Is the obviously watch the one on the Hoover Dam, fantastic. They've been doing that for years, and then watch the one on the Three Gorges Dam in China. My God, incredible. So if you got in the Snowy Mountains, there's another one, hydro and geothermal. Because at the end of the day, solar. Well, the sun, we have night and day. So, and what are you going to do with all the excess power you receive today? You got to store it in batteries. Battery comes from mining. Okay. So the wind doesn't blow all the time. Whereas the water that's stored, you can control the flow. So that's what I'm saying. Like they can control the flow of the water, you see. So you're going to get a constant generation of electricity, in my opinion. Again.
But we need this needs to be at an industrial level that powers the world, right? So to create hydro energy sources to power the world, I just can't see it happening, right? You need fossil fuels.
Hydro is pretty impressive. That's hydro and then geothermal as well. So what they do is they drill a hole down so the water goes.
Geothermal is fracking.
No,
right?
I don't think it's new. It's more using the heat.
Isn't that fracking?
Fracking's something to do. So fracking's different. Don't they cause an explosion or something? Fracking or?
Fracking is I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's drilling into the bedrock of the earth, right? And pumping high pressure, like extremely high pressure concentrated water into the bedrock. And it brings up, I think it's coal seam gas.
Yeah.
That gas is the energy. They capture that gas. But you're breaking the Earth's bedrock, and they reckon that creates gas seeping into waterways and things like that. So that's causes causes environmental issues and pollution in waterways and things like that. So
I just pulled up GT Energy. Fracking is a method of extraction that is used to harvest shale gas and is unrelated to geothermal energy production. Fracking involves fluids consisting of water, sand, and chemicals being injected at high pressure into rocks containing shale gas to create openings which allows the gas to be released. Geothermal is gained by pumping water into out of reservoirs and pass it through a heat exchanger. It does not have to involve breaking into the geographic formations in the same way fracking does.
Okay, so they're two separate things. But so what I described was coal seam gas.
Coal seam gas, yeah.
So it's not geothermal, fair enough. But I did describe it pretty much correctly. Yeah. The coal, capturing that gas.
But so look, at the end of the day, it's saying what's the word? Saying that the world's going to have to work out. Look, at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, coal's going to run out. That's inevitable.
I don't know. I just think the solution is there. Nuclear. It's politics, and it comes down to politics that they don't want to allow nuclear because it wipes out every other industry. It wipes out because the renewables is all an industry. People are making money. They're earning their living off renewable energies. Al Gore. If the world switches to nuclear, right, that wipes out the need for these renewables, possibly even need for coal, apart from, oil for lubricants, I suppose. So that's why it's political not to allow it. And they play on the fear of Chernobyl and Fukushima. I think there was one in America once, something 2 Mile Creek or something like that.
They thought the one in South Australia as well from the nuclear bombs.
But I'm talking about, nuclear power plants that have stuffed up, right? So Chernobyl and Fukushima are the two ones, always referred to, right? So that's a fear that is instilled. They play on that political fear to keep nuclear from coming in and taking out these renewable energy industries. It's about money, right? This is why I say the financial incentive has to be there, right? I think that a lot of this renewable energy stuff is they've created an industry, and they've largely duped everybody. They've duped the world to make everyone think that this is the way that it has to be done. Whereas I think the solution has to be nuclear energy. And they've learnt, and I'm pretty sure you could say also with nuclear, they've learnt from the mistakes.
Well, Chernobyl was just a basket case of mistakes. That was just people's stupidity. That was what caused that. But you're right. But what I'm saying is, I personally think you can never have too many forms of energy. So whether you have nuclear, hydro, geothermal, wind, solar, nuclear, bring them all on.
Fair enough. But if it's that urgent for the survival of the planet and the survival of our species, that we need to stop all these emissions, right, and stop the average temperature of the world increasing, and we need to do it like yesterday, then these renewables are not the solution, because it's taking too long to ramp up. They don't have the base load capability of coal. But what has that plus more is nuclear. Nuclear seems to me to be the only option. Now, I also need to leave open the fact that I possibly don't know what the hell I'm talking about, and I'm just rehashing bullshit that I've heard. That could be true, but nuclear just seems like a logical solution from what I've seen and read.
It's a fascinating a rock the size of a tennis ball compare a nuclear submarine for 20 years. That's pretty amazing.
A rock the power of the size of a tennis ball.
Yeah, that's all it is. So
you see what I mean? We need to power this little marble, hanging off a beam of light, floating through space. We need to power that whole thing. And they want bloody wind turbines on a cliff in, please. All right. On that note, we've been crapping on for about 2 hours, so let's bring it to a close.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. You too.
Wonder is like in modern philosophy, something you mustn't have. It's like enthusiasm in 18th century England. But you see, I don't know what question to ask when I wonder about the universe. It isn't a question that I'm wondering about, it's a feeling that I have. Because I cannot formulate the question that is my wonder. The moment my mouth opens to utter it, I suddenly find I'm talking nonsense. But that should not prevent wonder from being the foundation of philosophy. Going into our common sense, the 19th century myth, which succeeded the ceramic myth in Western history, I call it the myth of the fully automatic model. Man is a little germ that lives on an unimportant rock ball that revolves about an insignificant star on the outer edges of one of the smaller galaxies. But on the other hand, if you think about that for a few minutes, I am absolutely amazed to discover myself on this rock ball, rotating around a spherical fire. It's a very odd situation. And the more I look at things, I cannot get rid of the feeling that existence is quite weird. There is obviously a place in life for a religious attitude in the sense of awe, astonishment at existence. And that is also a basis of respect for existence. It has become extremely plausible that this trip between the maternity ward and the crematorium is what there is to life. Here is a tree in the garden, and every summer it produces apples. And we call it an apple tree because the tree apples. That's what it does. All right. Now here is a solar system inside a galaxy. And one of the peculiarities of this solar system is that at least on the planet Earth, the thing peoples. In just the same way that an apple tree apples. Now, maybe 2 million years ago, somebody came from another galaxy in a flying saucer and had a look at this solar system, and they looked it over and shrugged their shoulders and said, just a bunch of rocks. And they went away. Later on, maybe 2 million years later, they came around and they looked at it again. And they said, excuse me, we thought it was a bunch of rocks, but it's peopling. And it's alive. After all, it has done something intelligent. Because you see, we grow out of this world in exactly the same way that the apples grow on the apple tree. If evolution means anything, it means that. But you see, we curiously twist it. We say, well, first of all, in the beginning, there was nothing but gas and rock. And then intelligence happened to arise in it, you know, like a sort of fungus or slime on the top of the whole thing. But we're thinking in a way, you see, that disconnects the intelligence from the rocks. Where there are rocks, watch out. Watch out. Because the rocks are going eventually to come alive.